Hello there, and welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Kaladesh. Marshall Sutcliffe with Luis Scott Vargas. Luis, it's at the end of day one here. We've got one more round to go of standard, and we're going to get to see who's going to be undefeated. It's going to be Matteo Moure or Eric Froehlich, both of them coming into the round undefeated here. Let's find out who's going to stay that way. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Kaladesh. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas, and we have reached round number 8 here, and we have two undefeated players facing off against each other. Our first one, you may know him. It's Eric Froehlich. He's got 4 Pro Tour top 8s. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he has yet to pick up a loss today. Yes, we do see the eye patch he's got on. He recently had eye surgery, and even though his eye's okay, it actually helps him. He gets a headache if he takes that thing off because he's still wearing his prescription glasses over it for his other eye. So that's the, well, that and his stated intention of intimidation factor are the reason why he has it on. Now, his opponent on the other side, Matteo Moure, let's see if he looks intimidated. No, he looks pretty chill. He comes from Italy. He's actually gotten runner-up at the Grand Prix level 2 different times, that close to getting the trophy. And let's take a look at the decks that we're going to see here. You know, looking at Eric's deck, he is playing black-green Delirium, but he's got some new additions from Kaladesh that have kind of changed the way the deck plays. It's a little more aggressive now. You know, the real headliner is Verdurous Gearhulk, of which he's playing the 4 copies of, as well as 4 Smugglers copies, Smugglers Copters, and Servant of the Conduit ×4 as well. Now, on the other side of the battlefield, we're going to be watching Matteo, and he is playing a Teamer Aetherworks Marvel deck here. So right away, you already know that the big headliner, of course, for the deck is Aetherworks Marvel. We'll take a look at that, and he's playing Aether Hub, Aether Meltdown, basically anything that says Aether in it, he seems to put in, including a Tune with Aether, Glint Nest Crane. This is very much a Kaladesh-specific deck.
Oh, yeah. And Mateo's kicking things off by casting Cathartic Reunion and discarding 2 copies of Ulamog. So he's tearing through his deck, as we've seen other Aetherworks Marvel decks. And we're going to continue to see this, by the way. It is a not only very played deck, but it appears to be a very good and popular one, or a powerful one. It's got a lot of cards that just dig through the deck. Contingency Plan, Cathartic Reunion, Glint Nest Crane, and all it's doing is looking for Aetherworks Marvel, looking for energy, and then using those to look for an Eldrazi.
Now, on the other side of the table, you know, the green-black deck, we're used to seeing that be a very grindy mid-range deck, but it seems to have changed a little bit here with the advent of Kaladesh. It tends to be able to lay the beats on pretty strong now.
Yeah, Eric does have a deck with like Smuggler's Copter and Gnarlwood Dryad and Grim Flare that is able to pressure the opponent a lot more effectively than earlier versions. But look at Eric's first 2 turns. Turn 1, traverse the Ulvenwald. Turn 2, traverse the Ulvenwald. This is not the aggressive start he's hoping for.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Matteo Moure, he's been able to use up his mana pretty effectively with a pair of Cathartic Reunions, really clearing out a lot of the cards that he just doesn't want in his hand. You mentioned the 2 copies of Ulamog. It's not just that. There was also an Emrakul the next time and then an extra basic land. So he's kind of churning through his library, which is one of the things that it does, and this is the point of that. He wants to get to Aetherworks Marvel. Now, he's only got the 1 energy currently, but Marvel's on the battlefield.
Yeah, and Mateo's hand is set up to generate a bunch more energy. He has Woodworker's Puzzle Knot in hand, and he's going to be able to amp up his energy enough to use Aetherworks Marvel, assuming he can play a 5th land.
Yeah, just an untapped land will let him play the Puzzle Knot and as well as sacrifice it, which puts him even 1 above the energy.
That doesn't solve all his problems. He actually still needs to hit on the Marvel, and the fact that he's seen 3 of his Eldrazi already, which granted he's discarded them with Cathartic Reunion, but they're still not in his deck. So he has that 5th land. He's got the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. He's got enough energy.
He also has another one in his hand, Luis. So he's actually half of his targets.
Oh, so he's actually not in great shape to hit off Aetherworks Marvel here.
Not even favored.
4 energy, 3 life. Go to 9.
You hear Matteo walk through his thought process and what he's doing here.
20.
And here we go. So Aetherworks Marvel, he's going to look at the top 6 here. Let's see if he hits one of his big creatures. Running out of time. He did not.
He did not, but it looks like he hit an Ether Theorist. So that's one of the good things about this position for Matteo is that he didn't hit an Eldrazi, but he did hit a Theorist, bumping him back to 6 energy. He also can chump block Catacomb Sifter with that Theorist if Eric doesn't have a removal spell. That'll give him another go at the Marvel here, and it is possible that Matteo could get there. Does he actually have 2 Ulamogs in hand?
I only saw 1.
It has it listed as 2 right now. So
yeah, I think he has 2 Attune with Ethers and 1 Ulamog.
Yeah, that would be better for Matteo certainly, because otherwise he's down to he would be down to just 3 Eldrazi left in his deck.
Here's Kaladesh now for Eric Froehlich. He actually did draw a removal spell for the turn, but he's decided that he'd rather use his mana a little more efficiently and get a Kaladesh down. And that chump block that you mentioned is going to happen. So there will be no scrying from the Ether Theorist, but the damage was kind of done when it entered the battlefield and reloaded the Aetherworks
It
Marvel.
doesn't trigger Marvel either because of that Kalitas, but that Mateo's still at 6 energy, which is enough to trigger Marvel.
Okay, here we go. He's going to activate the Marvel again. Now, this is his second spin with this thing. Let's see if he can hit. No, 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 no. One more. No, he missed again. I mean, we saw that he's got 1 in his hand and 3 in the yard. He's only got 4 left.
So Matteo does have a number of options here, but he's getting to the point where even chump block with Ether Theorist is just not going to be enough against Eric's ever growing army, especially if Eric does have a removal spell in hand. And this is one of the dangers of the Marvel deck. It needs to find Marvel, it needs to get enough energy, and it needs to hit an Eldrazi. And that sounds like a lot of steps, but the deck is very good at assembling those. Just sometimes it doesn't all come together, and here, that Matteo has drawn a bunch of Eldrazi makes it a little more difficult.
Yeah, the Marvel helps itself along, too, with its extra ability. So Matteo's just cast a Kozilek's Return here, it looks like.
Yeah, and that's just going to kill the zombie, but...
Yeah, Eric actually sacrificed it to the Catacomb Sifter as well, so...
But what that does set up is if Matteo does hit an Eldrazi with Marvel, he's going to be able to flash back that Kozilek's Return.
A little awkward. So he's going to hit here off of his Glintless Crane. But it's A, another Marvel, and B, he put another one of his big targets on the bottom, and Emrakul goes to the bottom of his library.
Matteo is making it less and less likely that he hits an Eldrazi. I mean, he doesn't have a choice here. He's got to play Glintless Crane to assemble some blockers. And he does have an Attune with Ether, so he does get to shuffle that Emrakul essentially back into the fold here. So if Glintless Crane were to be removed, Matteo would get attacked for 13, 15 if Kalitas eats the zombie token, which is not quite lethal.
It's not. This is a little trick that you outlined earlier in the booth with Gabby here. Explain what's happening here with the Aetherworks Marvel number 2.
Because Aetherworks Marvel is legendary, Matteo gets to keep the untapped one, and because both of them are in play at the same time as one is sacrificed, they actually both generated energy off of the Marvel going to the graveyard.
And here this whole time I thought it was a drawback to have a legendary permanent.
No, in this particular case it is not.
Okay, and this was the removal spell that Eric drew a couple of turns ago, a Grasp of Darkness to take down the Crane. And look at this. Eric has 2 copies of Blossoming Defense to deal the last 4 damage.
All right. Well, that will do it. So.
Oh, man.
Eric is out of nowhere with the additional 4 points of damage. And
little smile there. He's like, that's where I put him in the deck. Just get in for extra
one man
4.
at deal 2s.
Oh, man. So Eric Froehlich is going to take down the first game there. We'll be back right after these messages.
Put what you've learned from watching the Pro Tour into action next weekend at Game Day. Test your skills and your new standard deck at a store near you. Top finishers are awarded special Game Day prizes, including full art premium promo cards and a champion playmat for the winner.
Want to play in the next Pro Tour? Qualifiers are happening this weekend on Magic Online. For more information, visit mtgo.com.
And welcome back to the feature match area here in sunny and beautiful Hawaii. Our players are down to business here. Let's take a look at one of our side tables here where we have Shota Yasuoka playing Grixis Control. Shota 7-0. Just, takes the control deck into the field where you could face hyper aggro versus, nearly combo versus mid-range and is just running it up. Now his opponent, Valentin Makel from Austria, is on a deck. He's labeled Black-Red Madness. He's using cards like Smuggler's Copter and Cathartic Reunion to help enable Madness, which is kind of a neat thing. Also a Scrap Heap Scrounger in there from Kaladesh.
Yeah, and Valentin is utilizing the prized amalgam synergies that we've seen in a number of different decks. With Scrap Heap Scrounger and Haunted Dead, bring back prized amalgam. And instead of Elder Deep Fiend, essentially this deck gets to play Voldaren Pry as its heavy hitter of choice.
Mm-hmm. We saw an Essence Extraction there from Shota Yasuoka, keeping his life total high and keeping the beats flowing here with that Gear Hulk.
Yeah, Gear Hulk playing Essence Extraction is a pretty big swing. And Shota, has a deck built with like tons of different instants, torrential Gear Hulks, Thing in the Ice, various counter spells, removal spells, Jace Unraveler of Secrets, just a lot of really sweet Grixis cards. And it's been pretty awesome watching Shota play. I actually got to catch his first round of Constructed against Teamer Colossus.
And you can see that Valentin's kind of showing off a lot of what his deck is capable of doing here, getting back a prized amalgam by discarding it and another card to the Haunted Dead. And then also with the other 2 mana he got back the Scrap Heap Scrounger, and he's actually attacking for lethal here.
I think Shota may have a thing or two to say about that.
Yes, we shall see. Oh no, another Gear Hulk? What does he have hiding in there? Looks like Unlicensed Disintegration.
And Unlicensed Disintegration plus Torrential Gear Hulk is actually a way for Shota to quickly turn the tables.
No kidding.
Now Shota has 10 points of damage on the table, dealt 3 with that Unlicensed Disintegration, and it looks like he might have a Wandering Fumarole waiting in the wings there. If he does, then that would be enough to potentially attack for lethal.
Wow. So Shota, who was going to take 9, took 1.
Yeah.
And in fact, Valentin took more damage in that combat step than Shota did, taking 3 from the Unlicensed Disintegration. Now, this one looks like it's winding down quickly here as Shota is in prime position to be able to finish off Valentin. Valentin is on 1 card here.
And I think that's the Fumarole, and
that is enough for the game, and that's going to do it. Shota Yasuoka takes game 1 against Valentin Makel. That means we can jump back to Eric Froehlich against Matteo Moure, and we'll see. We'll see if Eric can finish it off 2-0 and stay undefeated, or if Moure is going to be able to peel off a couple of games against the Hall of Famer and keep his record unblemished as we head into day 2 tomorrow.
And Eric does have some good black sideboard cards against this deck. Transgress the Mind and Pick the Brain are both somewhat effective against the combo Marvel deck. But something like Appetite for the Unnatural, as we were discussing earlier, artifact removal not quite as effective as you might hope against the Marvel deck. So Eric does have Transgress, but he's leading with the Grimflare in order to start getting hits in, get towards Delirium. And then you really do want to Transgress the turn before your opponent is going to hit Delirium, or going to hit Aetherworks Marvel.
That's right. So that would be the next turn here for Eric.
Matteo has a pretty optimal draw. A Tune with Ether, get him his 4th land, and then either Meltdown, which will shut down Grimflare, setting up for the turn 4 Marvel, except that Eric does have that Transgress and is going to be taking a look at Matteo's hand in just a second here.
Here's an Attune with Ether from Matteo. That's going to net him 2 energy and a basic land. Looks like Eric's a little short on lands here, but he does have a pair of Servant of the Conduits to help power things out later. Even a Noose Constrictor, you see he has gone full aggro, right? He's just brought in everything he can to to get him. Interesting to see the Blossoming Defense still in the deck for Froehlich, meaning that Matteo's actually going to have to make the decision right now to play the Ether Meltdown, or does he risk it and wait? It doesn't seem like to be a lot of upside to waiting, does it? Well, he's produced a blocker.
Either Theorist will give him 3 energy, and one of the reasons to do that is because Matteo does have Ether Hub in hand, so now Ether Hub will provide the 6th energy to activate the Marvel next turn, except Eric is going to likely be casting the Transgress just to... You run a huge risk if your opponent has Marvel and you don't cast Transgress.
And Eric's going to play Transgress first and take a look at what Matteo is up to. Let's see what he sees. Well...
Oh, it doesn't actually have the Marvel. So
no.
So, wait, did Transgress actually miss?
It missed here, yeah.
Because contingencies plan on either Meltdown or not expensive enough. So,
kind of good news and bad news for Eric there, right?
Yeah. The good news is, he's not facing down a Marvel next turn, most likely. The bad news is he paid 2 mana to look at his opponent's hand.
By the way, that was a really nice draw for Eric. He drew a Blossoming Marsh, and that was really... Or Blooming Marsh. And that was a really key play because it let him play Blossoming Defense here and maybe start getting in more with the Grimflayer, you know, because once that thing gets going, it gets pretty ugly for your opponent. 4 power that early in the game is rough.
Matteo with the draw you're never hoping to see, which is another one of the Eldrazi. It looks like he drew Ulamog here.
Did they ever just cast him?
You can cast Emrakul. Casting Ulamog is a little bit tougher, but Emrakul sometimes gets cheap enough that you actually have realistic opportunity to cast Emrakul. So contingency plan.
He put another contingency back on top, so he's just chaining those together now, just digging as deep as he can to try to find that Marvel.
That is a long-term plan because Matteo is guaranteed that he won't play a Marvel next turn. He's going to draw another contingency plan, which is going to get him 4 cards deeper. One really cool thing about contingency plan against black decks is it protects the Marvel from discard. Something like Glint Nest Crane could find Marvel, but it puts it in your hand, giving Eric the opportunity to cast Pick the Brain or Transgress. Contingency plan can just leave it on top where it's safe.
Okay, so Eric's going to play a Servant of the Conduit and a Gnarlwood Dryad this turn, and there's that other contingency plan. Can Matteo find an Aetherworks Marvel?
It looks like the positive...
Did see one.
And he actually gets to leave Ulamog underneath it in the library order. So that guarantees that he won't miss next turn.
Oh, that's nice.
So this is going to be tough for Eric to defeat here because Ulamog triggering Kozilek's return is going to go a long way towards wiping Eric's board.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough for Eric. You know, he's had a reasonable start to the game, but Matteo's still at 19 life. Means that Eric his deck just isn't quite built to close out that quickly.
If Eric could mill Matteo for 1, that would be very effective right now.
Absurd, yeah.
17?
I think he's down to 16 now, Matteo.
1, yes, sure.
So he made a Scion, sacrificed it immediately. That gets him a Scry 1 because he wants to play another Servant. Okay, and there's the Marvel. He's already got the energy. You can see it in the bin there, and here we go. So that was an Ulamog, right?
It was Ulamog. So
yeah.
Kozilek's return did get milled by contingency plan. Another reason that card is good. It's going to wipe Eric's board of creatures, and then Ulamog can eat the 2 Hissing Quagmires and leave Eric with 2 basic forests against an Ulamog and Aetherworks Marvel, which is not a very easy place to win from.
Yeah, this is going to be incredibly difficult for Eric to come back from. And in fact, he's going to scoop
like
up
Ulamog's
more
getting all
than
the
just his creatures. Yeah, he's going to just scoop it all up. He knows that he can't win from that position. So that means that Matteo Moure has, in fact, evened things up. And we're going to get a game 3 between that matchup, which I got to admit, I'm pretty excited to see. Okay, so let's check back on what we were watching earlier. That's Shota Yasuoka versus Valentin Mackel. Remember, we saw Shota Yasuoka win the game that we checked in on earlier, and we'll see how it's looking now. Well, Shota's attacking with Creature Land.
Yeah. When
What
you're
does that
attacking
mean?
with Wandering Fumarole, that's usually a good sign for you. But in this particular case, it actually does mean that Shota is short on black mana. He's only got blue and red mana currently.
Okay, well, Smuggler's Copter here for Mackel, but no attack because Weaver of Lightning is doing a good job holding back the Scrounger there.
Looks like Mackel on one card in hand.
Looks like a Cathartic Reunion actually got countered here, Luis. That is...
And discarding is an additional cost, so that Void
makes
Shatter...
me shiver just to think of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
It was a 3-for-1 that the 2 cards are discarded. Should have found the Evolving World, so now he actually has access to black mana, as well as a 6 mana total, so that Gearhulk in hand can be active.
That's pretty great. Mackel, it's funny, both Mackel and Yasuoka are very aesthetically minded when it comes to their mana bases normally. Yasuoka, with these guru lands, you can see they are absolutely stunning. And Mackel will often bring unhinged foil lands to tournaments, you'll see. But he wanted to really call out poor Shota there to point out that he's got a mountain.
I'm not going to lie, I
that
noticed
doesn't-
the one mountain, but I wasn't going to say anything.
I wasn't either, but Mackel decided
But
that
if
it
Mackel
was,
did, I mean...
yeah, it was funny. You actually could hear him ask, he said, "Are we on camera?"
Yeah. And so
In the meantime, it looks like Shota's really going to town here.
oh yeah,
with
that
torrential
Gearhulk killed the Smuggler's Copter, and then Painful Truths drew Shota 3 more cards, and now he's got a grip full of removal spells. At every turn, Mackel's activating, crewing a Smuggler's Copter and having it get killed. He's got 3 in the
He
graveyard.
just harnessed lightning down the other Smuggler's Copter. And they're both kind of laughing at this point because I think Mackel just knows how this plays out from here. He just has almost no way to win.
Yeah, he's very unlikely to win from this point. So,
And that does, in fact, do it. And we have an undefeated player, and he is a heck of a player as well.
Hall of
Shota
Famer Shota
Yasuoka 3-0s the draft and runs it through.
the control guru,
with his
as it were.
control deck. Unbelievable. Got a little bit of sideboard action down in the feature match area at the moment here as we await Eric Froehlich versus Matteo Moure here. But yeah, Shota Yasuoka takes a control deck into a rather uncertain field and manages to pull out. We've seen him do this before. He's certainly had a record by doing this type of strategy where he just sort of takes a control deck. Blue-black he played for a really long time around Dragons of Tarkir. But we've also seen him miss, right? It's not like a foolproof plan for him. It's just, when he hits, boy, does he hit, because, his technical play is so good, too. Okay, looks like we're just about underway here. Looks like Matteo, unfortunately, is going to take a mulligan here, so we will be waiting for another minute or two, but that's okay. A little breathing room here. Never hurt anybody.
Yeah, and the Aetherworks Marvel deck mulligans quite well.
Does it?
It really doesn't need much to win. I mean, it's got cards like Contingency Plan. It's very clearly willing to throw away cards in order to further its plan. And mulliganing and scrying, not as bad as if you were playing like an attrition-based deck, something like Shota's deck.
Now, Eric gets to be on the play again. Seems pretty darn important.
Yeah, this is almost a pure race. Eric has a little bit of disruption, but as we saw in Game 1, that one copy of Transgress is just not going to be enough against a deck that has a lot of ways to search out Aetherworks Marvel.
Got a couple of score updates for you as well. Matt Costa and Pierre Dajon are fighting into Game 3 in their match. We also have Tom Martell up a game over Alan Wu. And then, of course, we just saw Shota defeat Valentin Mackel in that match. Leaves us with this one.
Solid hand.
How does it look to you? Does it look good?
It's got Glutinous Crane and Cathartic Reunion, so it's going to see a lot of new cards, and it can generate a couple energy. It doesn't have Aetherworks Marvel, but against a deck with discard, it's not actually the worst to not find the Marvel until a few turns into the game.
It's like a traverse for Eric to kick things off.
Well, Eric has kind of draw you want. Turn 2 Grimflayer is one of the better ways to pressure your opponent, and Transgress plus Appetite for the Unnatural gives you a little bit more disruption.
Okay.
Appetite doesn't stop the one-hit marbles, but it will mean that Matteo can't play a marble, miss, and get another shot at it. As you noted
Now,
earlier,
is this a better target here?
yes, as you
For
noted
Appetite?
earlier, the main deck or main phase Ether Meltdown is a lot better. But yeah, I would expect Eric to devour that.
He's going to gain a couple of life, not super relevant here, but he gets to attack with the Grimflayer. He's already got a sorcery and an instant in the graveyard, and he may be able to just get to Delirium with this one attack and really have a nice threat out there. Trample also can be pretty relevant when you're trying to play Verdurous Gearhulks and throw a bunch of counters on to make up a turn or two. And especially because Matteo, we've seen him, he does chump block a lot. You know, he plays a crane and chump blocks with it. He blocked in game 1 with a few of his smaller creatures that are just looking to kind of hang around and generate some energy or dig around for the Marvel.
Yeah, and Glenda's Crane, a very important card for the deck. Oof, Emrakul, not the draw you want. Drawing the Eldrazi is just so bad for this deck because not only is it just a complete dead draw, it actually makes your Marvel less likely to hit. So it's just bad for multiple ways.
Okay, an Ether Theorist here for Moure. Also keep an eye on his energy count, because if he does manage to hit a Marvel, he's going to want to have his energy nice and high. He's already most of the way there at 5. And there's a Transgress from Eric Froehlich, which is, sadly for him, just going to take away a card that was unlikely to do much in this game anyway.
Well, it is relevant here because that Cathartic Reunion now just has to discard an actual card instead of Emrakul. So
Oh, sure. So just taking anything.
yeah, so that the Transgress was pretty solid.
Okay.
So Eric didn't have Delirium.
He did not.
But Blossoming Defense does punch Grimplayer past the Ether Theorist, which is actually what we saw happen in game 2 as well.
And, you know, it also makes him that much more likely to actually get Delirium here. As getting in for damage, gets that trigger from the Grimplayer. So Eric's got to feel like he's in a reasonably good position here. If he can untap and slam something big, you know, I'm thinking Verdurous Gearhulk or that type of card, he could be in a really good spot.
So Matteo looks like he's going to play Cathartic Reunion. He's going to discard a Puzzle Knot. The question is, do you discard a Puzzle Knot or the second Puzzle Knot or the Crane? And because he only has 5 energies, I think there's a pretty good chance he ends up wanting to keep Puzzle Knot. It looks like he's actually just going to run the Crane here.
Okay, Kozilek's Return. Emrakul and Ulamog. Oh, no. Terrible luck for Matteo.
Oh, yeah, that's actually just going to put him in terrible shape because now Eric's got the Gearhulk. He's going to be able to attack for 8, put Matteo on a 1-turn clock. Actually, Matteo can't even draw a Marvel and a 4th land. He's missed on a 4th land and he missed on a Marvel. So there's actually almost no way out for Matteo here.
Does Ether Hub do it for him?
He could play Ether Hub, but he
But
just doesn't have the Marvel.
nothing.
He can play the
he's just
Glintnest
dead.
Crane, so maybe buy himself a turn.
Like 1 turn, although everything that Eric has Trample as well. This is not looking good for Matteo. He plays the Crane,
No, and that's
and he just missed on that too.
12 points of damage minus 3 toughness for the Crane. That
That is lethal. Yeah. Matteo's going to play it out and pass the turn back, but Eric just says, turn these ones sideways. Sure. Pass priority, and that does it. Eric Froehlich, 8-0 to kick things off. And Eric can only shake his head as Matteo lays his hand on the table and just shows him a whole bunch of, 10-plus mana creatures in his hand. And that's going to do it. So Eric Froehlich, 8-0. That's going to be one of the big storylines coming out of day 1 here. We've got Shota Yasuoka and Eric Froehlich both sitting undefeated. Hall of Famers representing down in the feature match area. All right, so why don't we take a look at a match that we haven't actually seen this round yet, which is Game 3 of Pierre Dajon versus Matt Costa. Costa is on red-white vehicles. He tests with the Pantheon, so I'm not surprised to see that, as there are a few members of the Pantheon playing that, though not all of them. And then Pierre has a really cool deck that we got a chance to see in the feature match a few rounds ago, Blue-Red Spells, that is particularly cool because it's really trying to take advantage of Dynavolt Tower of all things, and it plays, Harness Lightning. You'll see that one in there, one of the torrential Gear Hulks, as well as 4 Spire Bluff Canal. We do want to keep an eye on these lands as they've popped up because we did see them do some good work for Eric there. The Blooming Marsh, that kind of stuff too. Ether Hubs and the like. The other side of the table, though, is Matt Costa, who is going to be very, very aggressive. You see a veteran motorist. He's got DePaula. He's got Toolcraft Exemplar in his deck. The Thraben Inspector that you and I talked about really does a lot of work here for Smuggler's Copter. Yes, you guessed it. That's in there. And also Fleetwheel Cruiser is a nice curve topper that we've seen as well as Pien Nalar. Harness Lightning. You can see this is a very Kaladesh-centric deck. And they're also playing 2 Archangel Avacyn here.
I've seen Avacyn be quite impressive. I saw Yelger Beegers mob play some earlier, and Archangel's looking very good there.
You see that DePaula comes down now for Matt Costa. He's going to play that in his first main phase so that he makes sure to get in for an extra point of damage and get that veteran motorist over Thing in the Ice.
Thing in the Ice looking like it could be a very large potential threat here since, one of the things we discussed earlier when we saw Pierre on camera is that siding in creatures in a creatureless deck is quite powerful because Matt is going to do, most sideboard plans involving taking out Declaration of Stone against the creatureless deck, and then you end up facing down Thing in the Ice, and all of a sudden Pierre, 2 turns later, has got a 7/8 Awoken Horror in play, and all your creatures are back in your hand.
You can see that Costa has a Gideon in his hand here. Doesn't seem terrible. In the meantime, this is going to work out pretty nicely here for Pierre because he has enough to play a Lightning Axe.
Madnessing a Fiery Temper.
And he madnessed a Fiery Temper
Take 2
too?
counters off Thing in the Ice,
Good
killing both
sakes.
of Costa's creatures.
I mean, it looked really impressive. It was a 2 for 2, but still, that was 2 mana, and also he got 2 counters off of the Thing in the Ice.
2 mana versus 5 mana, and
Yeah.
the Thing in the Ice is, if Pierre can play 2 spells this turn, which it looks like he can just cast 2 Anticipates. Thing in the Ice will flip, return the Night token to Matt's hand, and then
Gobble up.
and then he can just attack and destroy Gideon. Take inventory being the first way.
Take inventory and then anticipate in this case. So Pierre is going to transform into his Thing in the Ice into an Awoken Horror, and Costa just flips the the poor Night token to the side because it's gone. Of course, Pierre still gets to resolve his Anticipate on top of all this. Yikes. Man, you weren't kidding. Thing in the Ice looks fantastic now.
Oh yeah, it's a thing. It's destroying Matt Costa here, and he can replay. He can play some creatures out of his hand, but they're just not going to be big enough to compete with Thing in the Ice.
Ironically, it's not a thing anymore.
There's now an Awoken Horror.
Indeed.
And it is getting cracking.
Well, Costa is rebuilding his board out here. He's got a Toolcraft Exemplar as well as a Veteran Motorist, but neither of those tangle very well with the massive Awoken Horror at 7/8. Also, if Costa did take out his Declaration in Stone, does he have any way to deal with a 7/8 creature? It's just very
Unless he
big.
brought in Sky Whaler's Shot, which again seems somewhat unlikely. I think Costa's going to have trouble not only killing the thing, that's even erasing it. Though actually, that could be a Sky Whaler's Shot in his hand right now.
It is.
Oh, there we are. Looks like he given that this is game 3, maybe or potentially he saw the deck earlier. That means he did sideboard with Pierre's plan in mind.
Another result from our back table. Tom Martell, who was up a game against Alan Wu, gets the job done. Martell improves to 7-1.
Yeah, playing Etherworks Marble as well.
He tested with Team Channel Fireball for this one, right?
He did, yes.
All right, this is a Niblis of Frost now from Pierre. We saw this thing do major work a couple of rounds ago. Jeez, Costa wants more Skywhaler shots.
Yeah, he's going to need multiple removal spells because he's going to have trouble racing Thing in the Ice, Awoken Horror, and Niblis of Frost staying in play means Matt can't really attack or block very effectively, so his best chance actually probably does involve killing Niblis of Frost and just starting to throw away creatures to Awoken Horror, but I don't think that that's just going to work out very well for him. Maybe Skywhaler's shot on the Awoken Horror ends up giving him the more time, but given that he just took the 7 damage, it looks like he's much more concerned about the Niblis. As well, I think he should be.
Yeah, he's got a lot of concerns on the battlefield here.
So I think you get the idea, I'm pretty sure. That's correct.
Matt certainly gets the idea here. Things are not going well for him.
Well, if Matt can find another removal spell, then Pierre is still in pretty good shape, but at least Matt has a shot. If Matt can't find a removal spell, it's going to be very difficult.
Oh, he definitely needs a shot here. He needs a Skywhaler shot to take down that Awoken Horror.
Also, his Toolcraft Exemplars are 1/1s. He just doesn't have any artifacts, so they're not even doing a whole lot themselves.
Yeah, Matt's deck is just not built to play this game.
Yeah, once Pierre was able to blunt Matt's early pressure, all of a sudden you're playing a game that is so in favor of the deck with a bunch of draw twos and anticipates and like gigantic threats, whereas you've got these 1/1 synergy cards that just don't line up well.
This is about the best that those Toolcraft exemplars are going to do here is just chump block this Awoken Horror for a few turns and hope to give Matt a chance to draw a removal spell. Even then, all of these burn spells are so live for Pierre here. He's able to just kill actual cards with these. The Bombardment taking down the Selfless Spirit. Okay, a Fleetwheel Cruiser to get in for 5, or does it? No, there's an Anticipate.
May or may not. Fleetwheel Cruiser are among the better cards Matt could have drawn, because that if this all is successful, it can knock Pierre to 11. Matt then chumps and then maybe draws.
This is where it gets ugly, because if he draws a creature to crew,
then he still just dies to a Awoken Horror. So I don't even maybe something like Pia Nalar, which can crew the Fleetwheel Cruiser and then chump with the Lobster token.
Chain those together. Something has to happen. Pretty remarkable for Costa to get out of this mess. And in fact, Costa's seen enough. He knows that Pierre has this one locked up, extends the hand, and Pierre Dajon is going to be 7-1. Now, still a good start to the tournament for Matt Costa,
certainly,
who is going to be 6-2 coming out of the day. Now, it's never fun to lose that last match. You kind of have that I wish I could have got that one feeling. But still, looking back, when he wakes up tomorrow, I think he's going to feel pretty good about his chances coming in at X-2, as we like to say out on the tournament floor. Welcome back to the booth here in Hawaii. Marshall Sutcliffe with Luis Scott Vargas. And it's been our pleasure to bring you standard for these last few rounds. We did a booster draft earlier. We're winding down our day here. That was the last round of live action for you, but we've got a lot more tomorrow. We're going to run everything back tomorrow with a booster draft in the morning, then standard, and, of course, top 8 on Sunday. But for the booth, that does it. Let's send it over to Richard Hagan at the news desk.
Thanks very much to Marshall Sutcliffe and down there, Luis Scott Vargas, of course, with the call on the last round of Standard. Plenty more to come while we wrap the show up, and we're heading down. You can see there's about 8 minutes left on the round. We'll see what's going on with BDM out on the floor, Ian, and get a sense of the day. And then we'll have our curtain call, a full wrap on what we've seen here on day one of Pro Tour Kaladesh. So here's one that'll interest you. Can't read my own handwriting. Reed Duke, 7-1.
Awesome.
So I saw you chatting with him a couple of rounds back. How does he feel? I mean, obviously 7-1's fantastic, but how does he feel his deck is positioned, that kind of thing?
He's feeling great. He's playing the red-white vehicles deck, sort of the level 0, level 1 kind of strategy, the format here, but he said he tested a lot with his team and just felt like it's a great deck. It's, tough nut to crack, has great matchups across the board, and he's really happy with it.
Is that something that he's naturally comfortable with, going with the deck that is so well known coming in?
No, that's a great question, actually. I had this conversation with him where he's like, this is the first time in a really, really long time that I've just played kind of the baseline deck that everyone knew about coming into the tournament. And I think he sort of felt a little bit uncomfortable with that coming in.
Right.
But now that he's got some reps under his belt here, he's feeling really, really good.
Is that almost like the pros feel, not an obligation precisely, but almost that they're giving up one of the pro edges if they haven't found something a little bit different?
I think so to some degree. There is a lot of appeal to playing a rogue deck or sort of an unknown element at the Pro Tour where just people may not have prepared against your deck. They don't know what could be in it. They don't see certain lines of plays. So giving up on that, I think, is an indication that, you have to be really confident that the deck you're choosing, sort of the known quantity, is really strong, and also that you're going to be really good at piloting it.
That said, now both of those things absolutely hold true for Reed. Don't blush. With Jund, which is a deck that he's known for playing in multiple formats because everyone knows the cards that are in there, everyone knows it's good, everyone expects it, but he knows all the cards are really good and he plays it really, really well. So in a sense, maybe although red-white vehicles is not going to play out the way that your Tarmogoyfs and so on are going to work, maybe there is an element of, yep, it's right in the center of the metagame, and I can do what I need to with this. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. You talked about Jund and sort of mid-range decks also being something that Reed is generally more comfortable with. And so not only is he playing the level 0 deck that everyone knows about, but he's also playing an aggro deck for the very first time in a long time.
Right.
And he was saying, he's like, Ian, like, it feels great. I just get to play creatures and attack, and sometimes my opponent just dies. This is awesome.
Yeah, none of this like 50-minute rounds thing.
Yeah.
It's like 2-0 in 15 minutes. Well, someone else who's having a fantastic day one, also at 7-1, so maybe Reed Duke and this gentleman will be on a collision course tomorrow, is Pro Tour Gatecrash champion Tom Martell. And he's out on the floor with BDM.
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with the Pro Tour Gatecrash champion himself, Tom Martell. Tom, arguably, you had a stretch, 1.5 to 2 years, where you were most dominant player in the game. You had an incredible, Luis Scott Vargas, median finish. You were doing great, and kind of have tailed off here.
Since, yeah, exactly. Yeah, not done a lot since then. I barely remembered at this point. It was so long ago. It's been years. I really think. I was in contention there progressively as world's grumpiest Magic pro. If you follow me on Twitter, you've probably been subjected to some of it. I would apologize in advance, actually in retrospect for that. I don't know. I was burnt out. I kept pushing, kept slogging, kept feeling like the Hall of Fame's so close. I have to keep going, and just. I'm revitalized. I skipped Sydney. I'd already locked gold. Decided I wanted to clear my head. I haven't played any Magic for 3 months. Came back with a kind of a fresh look at things. Discovered leagues on Moto for Limited, which are just unbelievably awesome. I went from playing no Magic online because I couldn't block off 3 hours to playing all my spare moments. Got back in form, feeling like super excited about Magic again. I'm sure winning is helping that, but I felt that way coming in. I was genuinely so excited to play this tournament. I was nervous. I was shaking a little bit. That hadn't happened in so long, so it was great, and I'm feeling awesome.
So, there's kind of the joke, because Magic can be a cruel game sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And, there's a lot of, variance that comes with it. And, so the what changed can be a little, it's a little bit of a joke sometimes. But for you, there really is an actual change in terms of your preparation for the event.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I was excited to play Magic, right? So testing didn't feel like a slog. It didn't feel like something I was being forced to do. I was excited to play games of Magic and work on decks and draft. And when something feels like a chore or like a job, it's so hard to put your all of your effort into it. And now that it feels exciting again and like it's this awesome game that we all love, that spark coming back has just made it so easy.
So talk to me about that playtesting process. You got the Channel Fireball shirt on. You're back with Channel Fireball and Associates.
Yeah, so we were Ultra Pro before. We're now Channel Fireball and Associates. Same core team. I've been with them now for, I think, 3 Pro Tours. Just, fantastic group to work with. A lot of longtime friends of mine. Just really awesome group. And just, they really, especially Matt Nass and Raptor, really crushed it for the constructed portion of this. Hats off, and all credit goes to them on that side. Yeah, it's just been super fun.
Yeah, watching your game one here, I don't know how much of it we got to get on camera, if any, but you basically decked your opponent with Ulamog and where.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a black-red aggro deck. Well, how's he going to win? You can't get through. Just deck the guy, takes 3 attacks, and Ulamog's a heck of a card.
Yeah, you played 3 of them that game?
Yes. So I kept legend ruling them because the red black zombies deck makes prize amalgams and haunted deads, these recurring creatures. So the best way to get rid of those is just exile them. So I would just activate my Marvel again, find another Ulamog, exile 2 more of those guys who come back, attack with the existing Ulamog, next turn rinse repeat.
No big deal. Just get 6 energy, use your Marvel again.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the deck does. It's built around that. I mean, the deck really is surprisingly consistent. I've been really impressed. I wanted to dislike it in testing. I think I was biased against it and got won over really quickly. I locked in on Wednesday, and for those who kind of followed me in the past, I often show up with 2 deck lists the morning of the tournament, and I've been locked in for 2 days. It's a new process for me. The deck's great.
All right, Aetherworks Marvel. It's doing marvelous things here for Tom Martell. He's 7-1. He's in great shape heading into day 2 and the draft tomorrow.
Marvelous Martellian, it turns out. And we see it time and time again here, that the human stories of what goes on at the Pro Tour. You see so many players, they struggle to get over whatever hump they're looking at. Tom Martell saying their Hall of Fame was what I was desperately trying to do. They take a step back, they put things in perspective, life away from the game gets aligned beautifully, and suddenly the success flows in the game.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Rich. Sometimes all you need to succeed at Magic is just to take a step back and, yeah, like you said, kind of get your ducks in a row in terms of what else is going on in your life. And when you come back, often you have a fresh perspective, a clear head, and that's when you can really kind of hit your stride.
Right, and the thing is, the margins are so slim because he's a Pro Tour champion, he's a great player, but he was losing repeatedly down that stretch where things weren't quite going his way. But now they are. Hats off to Tom Martell. Now, we mentioned Ian's brother, Reed. Reed came in yesterday to talk to us about his hopes for the Pro Tour. It's going very nicely so far, but how did he feel before he was 7-1? Let's find out.
All right, I am here with Reed Duke. Reed, you just got here, right? It's to Hawaii. It's Thursday evening. You just rolled into town.
Straight from the airport, yep.
So some of the teams and some of the players came into town, a week ago or whatever, and kind of set up shop. We see that a lot from the testing teams. Mm-hmm. But you just got here now. What was your testing situation coming in for this PT?
Well, the Pantheon decided to test in Las Vegas this time. We have a handful of members that live there to begin with, and so I spent a few days on Huey and Owen's couch, just playing Magic, and then once the rest of the team showed up, we got a rental house and practiced out there.
And everybody's there. So otherwise, it was just similar to your normal testing setup where you got the whole team, because I know you guys are very get in a room together and test. Is that how it was for you this time?
Yeah, exactly. Just sort of the boot camp thing. And the one thing that's different is actually having to travel the day before the Pro Tour, which adds a little bit of stress to an already stressful day, but hopefully it won't affect me too negatively.
Yeah, I mean, because you went East Coast, West Coast-ish, and now you're in Hawaii, so you kind of like spaced out your jet lag. Are you worried at all about it, or?
No, I mean, I'm exhausted enough right now that I'm sure I'll sleep well tonight and be fresh tomorrow. But
now, you don't get to go to bed too early tonight, though, because there's actually the Hall of Fame dinner, and I mean, how excited must you be for that?
Oh, I'm very excited. It used to be the highlight of, almost the year for me to either sit in the audience and watch the Hall of Fame ceremony because they used to do it the morning of the Pro Tour, or even before that, just watching from home, getting to see the videos and learning all about the players and stuff. But now I actually get to go to this giant ceremony. They've redone everything. It's a dinner. It's like a party. Maybe a speech from Owen. So I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Owen too, for a guy who's very very much not emotive and tends to look at a lot of things through a negative lens. He is really excited today.
Is he excited?
Yeah, happiest I've ever seen him.
I'm super excited for him. I did get a chance to go to one of these, the style that you're saying, and it was one of the highlights of my professional year. Not a lot of people get to go, though. There usually is a video or something, but it's such a special night. It really, you and I can get caught up in all the travel and the testing and the cards and the discussions and all that stuff, but it just melts all of that away, and you get to see the culmination of something that somebody's put so much effort into, and you get to see that tonight for Owen. How cool is that?
Yeah, things look different when you take a step back and look at the big picture of somebody's career like Owen.
Also free food.
Also free food, yeah.
I'll see you tonight, Reed.
Thanks very much to Marshall and, of course, to Reed Duke. Now, if you want to know how the Hall of Fame ceremony went, we're going to show you some of that action on Sunday. Yuya Watanabe and Owen Turtenwald getting inducted into the Hall of Fame was very emotional, apparently, and just a terrific evening all round. Plus, Polynesian hula dancing featuring Hall of Famers. Don't know whether we're going to put that in the edit or not. We'll see. Anyway, meanwhile, down at the feature match area, we have another player at 7-1 with a great day one. From France, here comes Pierre Dajon.
Thanks, Rich. I'm here with Pierre Dajon. Pierre, great finish for you here so far at the end of day one. And I want to talk about your constructed deck. But what I find very interesting is that your constructed deck informed somehow your limited performance.
Yeah, like not in the way I drafted. It's not like I needed one rare for my constructed deck, but I like my deck so much in constructed. I wanted to show it to the world, so I needed to 3-0 my draft so that I get feature later. And I did 3-0 my draft. One game against Frank Carson was like really close, and I was thinking I really need to win this one because otherwise no one will see my deck, and it's so cool. So yeah, that was like the drive behind me going 3-0 in draft, I guess.
So have a really cool standard deck, and then it'll energize you through those early morning draft rounds. Tell us about the deck you played. We got a little glimpse of it on camera. We saw some crazy stuff happening. What would you describe this deck as, and how did it emerge from playtesting?
Okay, so I'm not going to go too far into what the deck is because of tomorrow I would like to win a few games, but just the global idea is that main deck you play a blue-red control-ish deck with a ton of removals and spells, no creatures at all, and Dinaval Tower, which is like one of my favorite cards from the new set because it's like a free ball for every 2.5 spells, which is actually quite easy to play a ton of spells, and that lets you against aggro. It's like kill everything, which is always a good strategy, I guess, and against control, well, if you can cast a tower and it results, then you can just bolt them 1,000 times if you need to, and that's how you kind of win games. It's just very bad if they have like a Vaderus Gearhulk, because an 8/8 for 8 is not something you kill with lightning bolts.
But that's what sideboards are for.
Yeah, exactly. And the sideboard is pretty good at dealing with that kind of thing. I think people saw me win with Sing in the Ice postboard, which is obviously quite good, and some other spicier cards.
So how did this deck come about? Who built the deck? Was this you? Was this, I mean, you've tested with Team Eureka in the past.
Yeah, so this time I couldn't test with Eureka for job constraints. Basically, like I could have come with them. They are so cool. They would agree for me to do that. But if I come with Eureka, I just test with them for like 3 days. It's not the usual process, so I would feel like I take advantage of them. So. And also, like, to be fair, the Frenchies who are qualified are very good and are very good friends, and I knew they could become a very good team, so I joined them. We tested together for like 2 weeks, but half in Paris so I could work, and the rest in Honolulu because it's way better. And the guy, Kevin Chish, so he's not super well known, but he's a good French player. He was like the master behind Bursting Pod at some point. Like, he was really, I think, genuinely one of the best Bursting Pod players in the world. He had the idea of a Dinaval Tower deck, which was really good game 1, and kind of really bad game 2 and 3s. And I was able to find a sideboard that could make up for that. So we had great game 1 and a good sideboard plan, and that's how we built the deck, basically.
All right, and 7-1, are you going to take this same excitement and energy into your draft tomorrow on day 2?
I mean, I'm not going to try to lose. I'm still super excited, and I'm in good shape. So yeah, I hope tomorrow I can thrill the draft. I didn't play so many drafts, but I feel like my team has a good grasp, and what they told me to do worked this morning, so there is no reason it wouldn't work tomorrow morning.
What was the draft strategy that carried you to 3-0?
Basically, I think for the last 2 or 3 formats, it was good creatures, good curves first, and we were like kind of back to basics where when in depth, pick a removal, like really, pick 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10, and basically I 3-0'd a lot with crappy creatures, great removals, not so much with great creatures, crappy removals. So I prioritize them very highly. I play, I think, only 2 cards from my first pack of the draft, but they're 2 tidy conclusions. And yeah, removals.
All right, there you have it. If you're drafting Kaladesh in the leagues tonight, just kill everything, and then you get to clean it up with whatever, bleeping creatures are left standing on the field. Pierre Dajon, 7-1, heading into day 2.
Great stuff. Pierre Dajon there. Ian, we do make these tournaments tough. I think of someone like Pierre Dajon, who at Pro Tour Theros in Dublin gets all the way to the final, loses to a friend and a teammate, so that sweetens it a little bit. But when you lose in a final and you realize just how many great players you've beaten to put yourself into that chair in the final. And now here we are 3 years later, he's 7-1, going into another day going, well, if I 6-2 tomorrow, maybe that gets me back into the top 8. And then if I beat 2 or maybe 3 people, then I'm back where I was at Pro Tour Theros. It is such a mountain to climb.
Yeah, very true. I mean, anytime you get second place in such a large and prestigious tournament, you know, all you can think about is what I wish I got first place. You know, any player coming into the tournament, if they could be guaranteed second place, you'd be like, great, snap it off, I'd take it. But in the moment when you get there, you're just really wishing you could get there again and have another chance. And yeah, coming back and having such a great start today, I'm sure all that Pierre is thinking about is, I want to make it to the top 8 again, and this time I want to go all the way.
Absolutely. All right, well, we are closing in. There's just a couple of matches left. So by my reckoning, it's time to close the curtain on day one. It must be time for curtain call.